She sat alone at 3 a.m. on a blind date, then this billionaire uncovered her hidden truth. The quiet hum of the city barely masked the pounding of her heart as Claire sat in the dimly lit corner of that upscale diner. The neon sign outside flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows across the sticky plastic menu in her trembling hands. She glanced at the clock. 3 a.m. In that moment something felt off, uncanny even, the kind of feeling that makes the hairs on your neck stand up. She was alone. Just her, a cup of coffee gone cold, and a date who was 30 minutes late. Footsteps echoed from the entrance. A tall figure strode in, enveloped in an aura of mystery that practically radiated from him. The low clatter of utensils fell silent. Was he trouble? A dark cloud of power and urgency seemed to follow him. Claire's breath hitched as their eyes locked. His gaze pierced through the chatter of the diner's patrons, locking onto her like a magnet drawing iron. She struggled to catch her breath. There was something unnervingly familiar about him. He approached with an air of confidence, yet there was a flicker of concern in his deep-set eyes. As he took a seat across from her, Claire noticed an odd glint beneath his tailored jacket. Was that? Her eyes widened, disbelief and curiosity mixing like oil and water. The billionaire, known for his glamorous life, had a hidden truth? His lips curled into a half-smile, almost mischievous. What was this man hiding beneath that polished surface? Claire felt that tightness in her chest again. Something akin to fear but sharper, more alive. Who was this man really? A predator in sheep-esque clothing? Just then, the jukebox let out a crackle, and a haunting melody filled the space between them. Tension coiled like a spring as neither spoke. They were lost in their own worlds, minds racing. It was as if the shadows began to whisper secrets around them, revealing countless tales of lives intertwined in ways they couldn't possibly know. The diner felt smaller, the air thicker. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A sudden commotion at the front of the diner jolted her back to reality. A high-pitched scream sliced through the air, startling everyone. Claire's heart raced as her eyes darted towards the door. Was someone in danger? She looked back at her date, but his expression had shifted. Shock washed over him, and that strange glint in his eye darkened. What was he hiding? Was this all part of the show? A wild thrill of anxiety gripped her. Who was this man really? And what deadly secrets were veiled beneath his enigmatic smile? As the chaos erupted around them, Claire braced herself, uncertain of the reality about to unfold. The sound of glass shattering cut through the chaos like a knife. Claire's heart leaped into her throat as she turned her head, aware that the world outside could be the source of danger. The diner was a medley of confused murmurs and panicked movements. People scrambled to comprehend the scene unfolding before them. But her focus remained on him. The billionaire. His posture had shifted, aura of confidence cracking like the windows that had just burst. His eyes darted toward the entrance, and for the first time, she saw fear etched across his sharp features. Perhaps he wasn't the predator she had imagined. Maybe he was just a man thrust into something sinister like her. Stay here, he commanded, rising abruptly, already half-turned toward the door. Those two words cut through her, igniting a breathless urgency. Wait, what's going on? Claire asked, but he didn't look back. He moved with purposeful strides, weaving through startled patrons. Claire felt herself torn. Should she follow, or remain where she was like a fish trapped in a net? After a moment of panicked indecision, she flung her legs over the edge of the booth and stood. The air buzzed with tension as she rushed after him. The screeching sirens of police vehicles echoed in the distance, mingling with the clamor in the diner. Claire caught glimpses of shocked faces and half-eaten meals abandoned on tables. The atmosphere felt electric, too rapid for her to grasp. As she reached the entrance, her breath hitched again. A crowd had gathered outside, peering into the early morning light, a mix of curiosity and trepidation. And there on the sidewalk lay a crumpled figure. Was it a victim? Claire fought the rising bile in her throat, unable to move as the realization crashed over her. This wasn't just a burglary. This was something darker. The billionaire was crouched beside the motionless form, his expression a tangle of concern and urgency as he checked for signs of life. His hands, once so polished, now bore a sheen of worry. She took a tentative step toward him, desperate to understand if this was part of his hidden truth. "Get back!" a voice shouted. It belonged to a man working the diner, eyes wide with panic as he pushed past Claire. "We need to call the police. Somebody's hurt." She hesitated. Should she listen? Should she remain hidden away in the shadows, where the risks felt smaller, more manageable? But that desire to hide was overwhelmed by the thudding pulse in her veins, and before she could second-guess herself, Claire jumped into the fray, reaching for the man's shoulder. "Let me help," she pleaded, and in that moment, the billionaire turned his attention back to her. His eyes searched hers, a silent connection flickering between them. "You don't want to be here," he murmured, voice low yet fierce. There were unspoken warnings swirling in his tone. A ripple of gasps surged through the crowd as another figure emerged from the alley next to the diner. Shadows clung to him like a cloak. His stance was aggressive, threatening. Claire's chest tightened, a lump forming in her throat. Why was this happening? What had she walked into? "Get away from them!" shouted the man in the alley, voice hawkish and fierce. Claire felt her pulse quicken. Before she could process it, the man lunged forward. Time slowed as she caught a glimpse of something glinting in his hand, and then every instinct screamed for her to get out, to flee to safety. Was this enigma of a billionaire as dangerous as he seemed? Or could he be the only one standing between her and escalating chaos? Just as the thought landed, she realized she had to decide: was she going to stay and see how deep the secrets ran, or run before they consumed her whole? Claire's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of fear and indecision. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, as she grappled with the urge to turn and run versus the magnetic draw that pulled her closer to chaos. The billionaire still hovered beside the injured figure on the ground, his focus unwavering as adrenaline filled the space around them. "Get out of here!" he shouted, voice booming over the growing murmur of the crowd. His intensity sparked confusion among the spectators, their curious eyes darting between the violence in the alley and the poignant plea of someone clearly trapped. Without thinking, she stepped forward, compelled by something deeper than fear. Maybe it was compassion or just sheer stubbornness, but Claire couldn't look away from the motionless person on the pavement. The aggressive figure from the alley advanced, his silhouette backlit by the morning sun, a looming shadow of malice. She could hear his footsteps crunching the glass strewn across the sidewalk. Each step reverberated in her chest like a warning bell. "Someone's gonna die if you don't move." He pointed the glimmering object in her direction, a knife, its polished blade reflecting the light. Panic surged through the crowd. Some took a step back, others froze, eyes wide with terror. Claire pressed her lips together, fighting the urge to scream. "We need to call for help," she shouted, her words almost swallowed by the tension hanging in the air. The billionaire pushed himself to his feet, a wall of power and command as he faced the threat. "Stay behind me," he insisted, positioning himself defensively between Claire and the menacing figure. "Why?" she demanded, glancing at him in disbelief. "You're not just going to let him move?" he ordered again, less a command and more of a roar infused with authority. Without thinking, she crossed the thin line of safety and slowly closed the distance to the fallen figure. She knelt down, her hands trembling as they found his shoulders. Checking for any signs of life, her heart pounded furiously against her ribcage. "Is he?" The words were barely a whisper. "I don't know." The billionaire's voice cracked, betraying his composed facade. "We need to get out of here." But what if he was alive? Claire needed to know. The shadowy figure laughed. It echoed, cruel and mocking, ricocheting off the diner's walls. "You should really listen to him, sweetheart. Last chance." That S when the sound hit her, a low growl like thunder. It sent shivers down her spine. Then there was movement, a flash of sleek metal slicing through the air. Before she could react, the billionaire dashed forward, colliding with the assailant. They grappled, the knife glinting perilously as they fought for control. Claire stared, her breath hitching in her throat. The scene played out like a nightmare, too surreal to process. But instead of backing away, the fight ignited something fierce inside her. Stop! She yelled, adrenaline surging through her body as she charged toward them, her heart pounding a call to action. The scuffle grew in intensity. Shouts filled the air, desperate and chaotic. Claire's voice trembled as she struggled to comprehend how far she had ventured into this turmoil. But she was committed now. She had to help. In that fleeting moment, she saw a flicker of panic in the billionaire's eyes. It wasn't just about survival. It was about something deeper. A connection formed in the chaos, where secrets roamed as freely as the violence between them. Then the assailant broke free from the billionaire's grip, blood seeping from a shallow cut on his arm. Both men turned, eyes locked on Claire, searching for what she would do next. She felt their weight pressing down on her, the decision narrowing before her. Would she face the darkness or would she retreat, stealing back into the shadows of safety? Just then, a blaring siren burst through the chaos, a harbinger of the law crashing onto the scene. The attacker's eyes widened with alarm, and for a split second, everything stood still. Would they all escape this unscathed? Or was the real fight just beginning? The silence shattered, bouncing off the walls like a fist against glass. Sirens wailed, a cacophony of impending justice and dread. Claire held her breath, a knot forming in her gut as she faced down the two men, each one embodying a different darkness. Time twisted, stretching the moment thin until every heartbeat seemed amplified, every thought clearer than crystal. The assailant's eyes darted back to the alley, calculating his options. Fear flashed across his face, and without a second thought, he lunged toward Claire. Instinct kicked in and she barely sidestepped, the rush of his body brushing against her sending a wave of nausea through her. She caught a glimpse of the knife, its edge hungry for blood, and her heart raced even faster, pumping adrenaline through her system. The billionaire, already on the floor, scrambled to regain his footing. He was quick, relentless, his past giving him muscles built for this exact moment, a combination of drive and desperation. "Stay back!" he shouted as he charged straight at the threat once more. His voice held power, his frame a fierce shield, but Claire couldn't shake the doubt that gnawed at her. What if it wasn't enough? The attacker, now cornered, grabbed a shard of glass from the ground, wild-eyed and desperate. "Get away from me, you rich bastard!" he spat, lunging at the billionaire, who narrowly dodged the wild slash aimed for his throat. "What is wrong with you?" Claire exclaimed, her voice rising above the chaos. "There's no need for this." But the man was too far gone, enraged as if the world had pushed him to this point, wrapped in a den of despair and violence. With each howl he seemed more like an animal cornered, primal instincts taking over. The crowd behind them pulsed with tension. Gasps and murmurs filled the air, creating a thick fog of uncertainty. "Someone call the police!" she screamed into the throng of people, her panic radiating outward. Faces looked back at her, but no one moved. Their fear became tangible, coiling around her like chains. The assailant swirled back around, time slowing as Claire's mind raced. The billionaire and the attacker were all too close, close enough for her to see the fury in the man's eyes and the determination etched into the billionaire's jaw. She couldn't just stand there. The fight wasn't just theirs. It involved everyone watching, everyone who had a choice to make. "What do you want?" Claire demanded, her voice trembling with unexpected strength. "If you really want to hurt someone, then do it to me." With those words, the temperature in the alley shifted, the air thick with tension. Both men froze, the fight briefly forgotten. The attacker blinked, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Was her fear so compelling that it gave their conflict a new twist? "Don't be stupid," the billionaire hissed, desperation clawing in his voice. But she sensed it, the power of choice loomed like a specter above them. It was that fragile line between fight and flight, and she wasn't prepared to run anymore. "You're scared," Claire pressed on, pushing against the blade of panic in her chest. "You're not a monster, right?" Something flickered in the depths of the assailant's gaze, and for the briefest moment, the chaos grappling them subsided. What was she doing? What was she hoping for? Suddenly, the sirens neared, their red and blue lights washing over the alley, ketchup and mustard hues clashing against the gray of the concrete. Something shifted deep within the assailant, a flash that illuminated anger mixed with shame. "Get away from me!" he shouted again, but this time his voice cracked, a hint of vulnerability breaking through the chaos. Claire held on to that moment, every heartbeat urging her to reach out. But the billionaire lunged forward, breaking the fragile connection woven by her plea, as he flanked her with fierce protection once again, eyes full of determination. No, she screamed, voice raw. They were both travelers spiraling into darkness, but what if she could bring them back? Then in a swift motion the attacker dropped his weapon, the glass, clattering loudly against the pavement. But just as fleeting hope flickered to life, a shadow moved from the corner of her eye. Another figure emerged from the edge of the alley, face obscured, wrapped in mystery, and she could hardly breathe as realization hit her hard. The real fight, was it still just beginning? The new figure stepped forward with an unsettling grace, casting a long shadow that danced against the flickering lights of the police sirens. A hood obscured their features, but their calm demeanor was out of place in the midst of violent turmoil. Claire's heart raced, confused yet captivated by this unexpected presence. "Step aside, let me handle this," the newcomer said, their voice smooth like glass, but laced with an authority that sent shivers down Claire's spine. She turned to the billionaire, desperation written across her face. "Who are they? We can't let him go." The billionaire, still bristling with energy, kept his eyes trained on the assailant. "We need help," he snapped, clearly skeptical of the new arrival. But Claire felt a strange pull toward the figure, as if the darkness surrounding them extended into the alley from their very being. The assailant looked torn, the glimmer of surrender flickering in his eyes like a candle in a gust. "Help? You think they can help you?" The attacker spat, disbelief mingling with his rage. "None of you understand." The newcomer stepped forward, lifting their hands carefully as if to placate a feral animal. "I understand more than you know," they said, tightening the grip of mystery around their words. "Don't listen to them," the billionaire roared, shifting closer to Claire, his chest heaving. "We need to keep him distracted until the police arrive." But Claire saw the way the assailant fidgeted, the way his breaths quickened but were punctuated by an undercurrent of vulnerability. Wasn't he just a monster? He was a man cornered by life's bleak realities, as fragile as any of them. "What do you want?" Claire asked the assailant again, her voice softer, tinged with compassion. "We can talk. Just put the glass down." The newcomer's shadow loomed larger, an almost oppressive presence. "Enough of this negotiation," they intoned, their gaze piercing through the darkness, searching for something deeper. The assailant's eyes darted from Claire to the figure cloaked in mystery. "You don't understand. They took everything from me." His voice shook, the rawness revealing fractures beneath his bravado. Claire's gut twisted, sensing the desperation that brought him to this brink. "We all have our demons," she replied, feeling the tightness in her chest. "But hurting others won't bring you peace." The newcomer tilted their head, eyes narrowing. "Peace? What do you know of peace?" "More than you think," Claire shot back, feeling her resolve crystallize. She was stepping onto a shaky path, but she couldn't turn away now. The lives hanging by a thread, hers, the billionaire's, and the assailant's, were all intertwined at this moment. Suddenly, the tension erupted like a pressure cooker. The police sirens blared louder, shaking the very air around them. Voices from the crowd crescendoed into a chaotic chorus, panicking the onlookers caught in the fray. "Get back!" came a voice, likely from an officer now arriving on the scene. The situation was swiftly spiraling out of control. "Please!" Claire shouted over the rising noise, a plea for humanity blending with the sirens. "Let us just talk." But the air crackled with tension, the newcomer looming, the assailant agitated, and the billionaire standing fiercely protective by her side. With a flash of movement, the newcomer lunged forward, but not toward the assailant. Instead, they grasped the billionaire's wrist, their grip both firm and unsettling. "You've been playing a dangerous game. You don't see it yet." Claire's breath hitched. Were they implying something deeper, darker? The instant was surreal, a precipice balancing on the edge of revelation and chaos. Then, an unexpected sound, a scream from the alley mouth as the police arrived, weapons drawn. Claire's heart sank. Was this the end of hope? Or just the unfolding of a much darker truth waiting in the shadows? The air hung thick with anticipation, and in that moment, everything shifted. What if this was far from over? What if the real battle loomed just beyond their peripheral vision? With chaos erupting around her, Claire realized she had never been this close to the brink of tragedy, and it felt as if she was only beginning to uncover layers of darkness she never knew existed. The crowd surged forward, an ocean of panicked faces illuminated by the strobe lights of police vehicles. Claire felt a wave of heat crash against her as confusion turned to dread. The figure's grip on the billionaire tightened, and she could see the tension curling like smoke around their posture. "Let him go," Claire shouted, forcing her way through the throng. Every second felt like an eternity, and every scream and shout echoed inside her head, amplifying the chaos. The assailant stood still, caught between anger and a desperate longing for redemption. "You think you can save him? You think peace comes easy?" He shook his head, his voice rising with fury. "You don't know what they did to me." Claire's heart ached for him, resonating with his pain. "But you're still hurting others," she implored, reaching out instinctively. "It doesn't have to end like this." The newcomer's eyes flickered between her and the assailant. "You're all pawns in a game too big for you to comprehend," they murmured, slowly releasing their hold on the billionaire, who stepped back, confusion now etched across his face. "Enough!" the assailant roared, flinging the glass to the ground, shards scattering like 1,000 broken dreams. "This is my life. You don't get to decide my fate." He looked at the newcomer, an accusing glare that seemed to pierce through the shadows. "Are you really here to help? Or are you just another player?" With a calm that seemed to unnerve everyone, the newcomer straightened. "Help is nuanced. Sometimes confrontation brings clarity." They glanced back at the officers now surrounding the alley. "And clarity is exactly what we need." Claire felt a chill racing through her veins, uncertainty replaced by fear. The air crackled with electricity. "What do you mean by that?" she asked, her voice trembling. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. Police officers emerged from the mob, guns trained on the group. "Drop your weapons. Hands where I can see them." The assailant froze, glancing at the newcomer as if seeking affirmation. Claire's pulse quickened. What would happen now? "Don't move," one officer barked. The command sent a wave of tension crashing over them. Before she could speak, the newcomer began to move slow, deliberate steps forward. "Wait," Claire hissed, panic flooding her voice. "Don't," but it was too late. The figure held up their hands, shadows dancing across their face as they addressed the officers. "We're all here seeking resolution. You don't have to escalate this." The assailant stood motionless, a statue caught between worlds. The screams from the people in the background melded with the drumming of her heart. The newcomer's presence was overwhelming, a force of nature unyielding to the chaos. The lead officer narrowed his eyes, hesitant. "Step away from the hostage." "Hostage?" Claire shouted, indignation sparking through her fear. "He's not a hostage. He just needs to be heard." She thought of the raw desperation in the assailant's eyes. "Don't you see? This is about understanding. Understanding comes after safety is assured." The officer replied sharply. "Now drop your hands." The moment hung in the air, so thick it felt like a physical barrier. Claire felt the weight of decisions pressing against her, suffocating her thoughts. She could either stand by him, face the cops and risk everything, or with a scream the assailant lunged forward, his eyes wild. "You'll never truly understand." Adrenaline surged as he darted past the newcomer, pushing through the officers who were too stunned to react. Then chaos erupted. Flashing lights, shouting officers, distant sirens crescendoed. Claire watched in horror as everything blurred into an escalating nightmare. Where was this headed? Would they all walk away unscathed? Or was tragedy waiting just around the corner? In the midst of it all, Claire began to sense an unsettling truth. What if the tragedy was only the beginning? As the assailant pushed past the officers, Claire's stomach dropped. It was as if time had warped around them, each heartbeat stretching into unbearable moments. She gasped, lungs tight with the weight of uncertainty, caught in the spotlight of chaos. The lead officer shouted again, his voice slicing through the din. "Chase him. Stop that man." But the crowd acted like a tide, surging towards the chaos, creating pockets of confusion wherever they turned. Claire fought against the swell, desperate to reach the assailant. "Stop!" she screamed, but her voice was drowned out by the shrill sirens blaring around them and the frantic shouts of officers. Suddenly, someone collided into her. A young man, face pale, eyes wide. "They'll shoot him." You have to make them listen. He stumbled back, his fear palpable. I know, Claire shouted back. But how? Panic sent an icy shiver up her spine, and for a second the world felt unreal, like a twisted film playing out while she was stuck in an awful premonition. Ahead, the assailant barreled toward a narrow street. With unexpected agility he veered sharply into an alley, the only path that offered a glimmer of escape. Claire's heart raced. He was running toward danger, a trap for sure, and yet she couldn't abandon him. In a startling flicker of resolve, she sprinted forward, every step echoing with urgency. The chaos churned behind her, but all she could focus on was that figure disappearing into the darkness. She pushed through the thrumming crowd, adrenaline firing her limbs. As she reached the mouth of the alley, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed, followed by the louder shouts of the officers now sprinting to catch up. Stop! We're coming for you. Claire glanced nervously around. Were they following her too? But she couldn't worry about them. She had to get to him to help. Please just stop. She called into the alley, unsure if he could even hear her, and then, for the briefest moment, silence washed over her. She stepped further into the alley, feeling the cool gust of wind prickling her skin like icy fingers. Shadows flickered in the darkness as she strained to see around her. Why won't you understand? The assailant's voice echoed, a mix of rage and desperation, ricocheting off the brick walls. Claire's heart cracked a little more as the truth of his plight sank deeper into her marrow. But the fear spread like wildfire in her chest. She stepped cautiously, inching toward him. Please just talk to me. I want to understand. He emerged from the shadows, breathing heavily, his face glistening with sweat and dread. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Claire could see something break within him. The anger that had flared so bright was now dimmed, a flickering candle under heavy duress. I can't, he shouted, a tormented plea. They won't let me, they took everything. I know you're hurting, but hurting more people won't help you. Claire reached out, trembling, her own pain merging with his. Let us figure this out together. Please. But then the footfalls returned, louder. A team of officers closing in. The narrow passage was growing tighter, suffocating. We have to go, she urged. Please trust me. The assailant's face twisted in conflict. Trust is a luxury I can't afford, he replied, desperation etched in his features. But in his eyes, Claire glimpsed a choice, a flicker of belief. Before she could press further, the sound of heavy boots echoed behind them. A line was drawn. The showdown was imminent. Would he choose to fight or flee? The tension hung like a raw nerve, pulsing with danger. Just then, she heard a voice call out from behind, more resolute than the one before. Stop. We can help you. Who was it? More officers? Or had the newcomer returned to influence the outcome? Claire. Something deep within urged, but time was slipping away, and the moment hung precariously over an edge. What answer would he give? As the shadows deepened and the pressure mounted, Claire realized that no matter the choice, everything would change from here on out. Would they emerge from this alley into the light, or would the darkness swallow them whole? In that heartbeat of decision, the world around them seemed to hold its breath. A sudden gasp cut through the tension, like the snap of a twig underfoot. Claire's heart raced, every instinct screaming at her to act. The alley felt more cramped now, the air thick with anxiety. She stole a glance back, and there she saw a figure bold, dangerous. An officer silhouetted against the light, brows furrowed and ready to pounce. Get out of there. We mean you no harm. The voice bellowed again, sharper this time. It seemed like the remnants of hope were being crushed beneath the onslaught of authority. Trust is a luxury I can't afford. The assailant's words echoed in her mind, stabbing at Claire's resolve. It's what they all thought, wasn't it? She took a step closer to him. Please, I'm trying to understand, she said softly, heart hammering in her chest. He shook his head vehemently, sweat streaking his unshaven face. You don't know what they'll do. Panic twisted his features, a raw fear that clawed through the shadows. They've taken everything. I can't go back. What did they take? Claire's voice was steady now, cutting through the rising storm. Talk to me. You might not be completely alone. Behind them, shouts grew more frantic. Officers scrambled, strategizing their next moves like chess pieces on a board spun out of control. But in that moment she didn't care. This man's pain was palpable, almost tangible. and it mirrored her own, a storm of confusion and desperation swirling in their shared space. They took my family, he finally choked out, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. They won't stop until they erase every trace of us. The bitterness seeped into his tone, each syllable weighed down by history. Claire felt a cold lump form in her throat. But if you hurt yourself or others, it won't bring them back. It'll only make it worse. Each word fell like a rock, skipping across the water to reach him. Just then from behind the officer yelled, "You've got 10 seconds. Either come out now or face the consequences." The countdown hung ominously above them, shrouded in menace. Claire felt her stomach twist. "Listen," she said urgently, stepping into the fray. "They can't take you again if you decide to fight back. Let us figure out how to fight together." The assailant blinked, vulnerability creeping in, and for a moment, the shadow of despair receded from his eyes. How? How do I believe you? Because I'm willing to risk everything for someone I barely know." She took a breath, the truth of it settling deep in her chest. "And maybe you can too. It's a chance to reclaim what was lost." A flicker of hope sparked in his gaze as he weighed her words against the threats lurking just beyond the alley. But then the sound of heavy boots came barreling in, drowning their moment of connection. There was no time left. "Do you trust me?" she implored, stretching out her hand. Before he could respond, the chaos erupted. A surge of uniforms entered the alley, shouting commands, the air thick with authority. Claire's heart raced. "Run!" she shouted, not caring whether they'd be caught, or if they would both fall into the depths of chaos together. Now, he hesitated just a heartbeat more, caught between fear and possibility. But now, suddenly he reached for her hand, and she felt a jolt of electric hope. But then a bright flash behind them illuminated the alley, and in a split second, she realized the danger they were truly in. Would the choice he just made lead them to safety, or would they both bear the brunt of a system that was only beginning to tighten its hold? Darkness spiraled around them, but Claire's heart surged, clinging to the last ounce of hope. She pulled him into the shadows, praying they'd find a way out before it was too late. Who would they meet around the next corner? And what truths awaited them in the depths of their escape? Adrenaline coursed through Claire as she surged into the darkness, pulling the trembling man along with her. Worrying shouts echoed behind them, punctuated by the hard thud of boots pounding against the pavement. The world outside, once familiar, had warped into a disorienting maze of chaos. "Where are we going?" he gasped, his breath warm against Claire's ear. "Somewhere they won't find us," she replied, pressing deeper into the shadows. Each step felt like a gamble, the stakes growing higher with every beat of her frantic heart. "Do you have a place we can hide?" "Maybe the storage unit, but it's not far." His voice quivered, bearing the weight of desperation. "It's all I have left." "Lead the way," Claire urged. They maneuvered down narrow corridors of brick and crumbling concrete, shadows dancing menacingly around them. The air tinged with dread, oppressive and cloying, wrapped around Claire's throat. She could feel his presence, his fear, and something else, an undeniable bond forming in the midst of an impossible situation. They reached a metal door at the end of the alley, crusted with grime and neglect. He fumbled with the padlock, hands shaking. Quickly, Claire turned to monitor their surroundings. The echoes of pursuit drew nearer, sending a chill racing up her spine. "Just a second, it's stuck." His panic echoed through the quiet, and she felt a ripple of anxiety stitch into her own thoughts. With one final shove, the lock clicked open and he yanked the door wide. They scrambled inside, the scent of rust and old wood washing over them. Heart pounding wildly, Claire pressed her back against the cool metal wall, eyes sharp for any signs of the pursuers. "Do you have a plan?" he whispered, his eyes wide with concern. "I don't know yet," she replied, her voice a steady murmur meant to calm them both. "But we need to gather ourselves. We can't stay here forever." She glanced around the dim room, scanning for anything that could help them. Boxes stacked high loomed overhead, cobwebs draped like curtains around them. The uncertainty of what lay beyond this shelter was a bitter pill to swallow. Just then, the vibrations of heavy footsteps rang out through the night, accompanied by the shouts of officers. A suffocating dread settled in. They were searching, closing in. Claire's heart dropped. "Listen," she hissed. "If we can distract them, what? How?" He looked around desperately. Maybe the window. She pointed to a grimy square of glass at the far end. If we can create a noise, we could slip out while they're focused on that. He nodded, determination replacing despair. I'll make the noise. You get ready to bolt. Be careful, she warned, but he was already moving. Claire watched as he crept toward the window, her chest tight with fear. The footfalls grew louder, urgency crackling in the air. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside as if the world was crumbling around them. The officers collided with the door, and Claire's breath hitched. Now, she shouted, and he quickly let out a scream, not of fear, but an intentional decoy like a fire alarm blaring amid a deafening silence. All heads turned, feet racing towards the source of the sound. Go! Claire grabbed his arm, and together they darted for the back wall, aiding one another as they lumbered to the window. Just as the door splintered, they clambered high, moonlight flooding the room. With a final glance back, Claire's heart plummeted. They had no idea what awaited them outside wild freedom, or a trap waiting to ensnare them. As they slipped through the jagged opening, a muffled shout lingered in the air, followed by a deafening silence. What now? They stood suspended, reality rushing in 2 GPS points adrift in a chaotic world, uncertain of the dangers lurking right outside their desperate flight. Which way? He asked quietly, breathless. No idea, Claire answered, terror mingling with adrenaline. But we can't slow down. We have to keep moving. They'll be looking for us. The darkness swallowed them, a void of uncertainty like a beckoning abyss. Anything could lie ahead, an escape or the final confrontation that might seal their destinies forever. What were they about to walk into? The darkness wrapped around Claire and the assailant, squeezing in tight as they darted through the narrow alleyways. Claire's heart hammered fiercely, each beat a reminder of the stakes. They had escaped one trap, but beyond the threshold of the storage unit lay an uncertain world, one full of lurking dangers and unspoken truths. Which way? He panted, glancing back toward the direction they had come. They'll be right behind us. Stick close, Claire urged, her voice steady but laced with urgency. We need to find a safe spot, somewhere they won't expect us to go. She took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the shadows for some flicker of hope amidst the encroaching panic. Follow me. They weaved through the back streets, the scent of rain-wet pavement and distant city lights guiding them. Claire took a sharp turn, leading them into an alleyway littered with treasures from forgotten dreams, discarded furniture, old crates, and a rusted barrel. It was cramped, claustrophobic, but it held secrets too. Here, Claire whispered, pushing just enough debris to create a hiding space behind a stack of old cabinets. Let us wait it out. They crouched low, breathing quietly, hearts hammering in their chests. The echoes of the officers pursuing them faded momentarily, replaced by the rhythmic sound of rain beginning to fall, a steady metronome promising change. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, he muttered, his voice filled with regret, trembling like the leaves above them. You don't even know what I'm capable of. Maybe I do, Claire answered, her tone gentle yet firm. But this isn't the end of you. Doesn't have to be. She felt a warmth in her chest, a flicker of conviction. You're not just a criminal. You're a person who has suffered. You're trying to survive. He fell silent, his breath steadying, an unexpected wave of calm washing over him. I just wanted to get my family back, he murmured, the vulnerability in his voice cutting through the stillness. Claire shifted closer, feeling the weight of his words. I understand, but we can fight for something better. Together. Minutes passed, but it felt like hours as they sat in their small cocoon, the drumming rain providing a cloak of anonymity. They exchanged stories, fractured lives told in whispered breaths. Claire learned of his relentless fight against a system that took everything he held dear, and in turn she revealed her own battles, each word binding them tighter. But then came the sound of footsteps again, closer this time. We need to move, he said, panic creeping back. They'll find us if we stay here. Claire nodded, her determination solidifying. Okay, let us wait for the right moment, then we catch them off guard. They climbed carefully out of their hiding place and moved toward the entrance of the alley. Peering out, they saw flickering police lights illuminating the street ahead. The officers swarmed the vicinity, shouting orders and pushing the crowd back as they surveyed the scene. Claire spotted the billionaire nearby, arms crossed, his expression a blend of concern and fierce determination. Their eyes met for a heartbeat, and in that moment, Claire felt a surge of power. She was reminded of their connection, the hidden truths between them, an understanding born from chaos. He moved toward their direction, his presence commanding the attention of the officers. "The assailant is down there," he called, gesturing toward an adjacent alley. "I saw him slip through." "What are you doing?" Claire hissed, feeling the urgency swell inside her. "You can't lure them to us." But he kept his gaze locked with Claire's. It was all the reassurance she needed. "Trust me." His voice was steady, a lifebuoy thrown into the turbulent waters. Then, an unthinkable idea ignited within Claire. "We can't let them catch him." She grasped the assailant's arm. "When he moves, we follow. Stay close, keep low." Just before they could make their move, the gunfire erupted, echoing through the narrow streets, a terrifying wake-up call. She took in a sharp breath, feeling the wet chill seeping into her bones. "Now, Claire," whispered fiercely as the assailant bolted, ducking behind a dumpster, armed with only the desperate will to survive. They rushed after him, her heart pounding loud enough to drown out the chaos surrounding them. Everything became a blur. Shouting officers, frightened faces, the piercing sound of sirens. Claire felt adrenaline surge like an electric current, each moment propelling them further into the fray. They darted through the crowd, weaving around startled bystanders, hearts racing with an unbelievable fury. The assailant glanced back, fear evident on his face. They scrambled onto an abandoned street, alley walls closing in around them, a safe haven amid the madness. "Keep moving," Claire urged, but suddenly the world felt both heavy and surreal as she turned to see the billionaire at the mouth of the alley, a single gun raised and his expression resolute. "You're surrounded," he yelled, echoing through the alleyway. "Don't let them take me," the assailant shouted, a raw edge to his voice that cut into the chaos like a knife, fear rippling off him. "Stay calm," Claire shouted, strength flooding her voice. "Please just listen to me. We can work together." She gripped the man's arm tight, trying to ground him. The tension wrapped around them, suffocating and electric as all eyes focused on their tiny pocket of life and uncertainty. Just as it seemed disaster would strike, a shift rippled through the air, the sound of approaching sirens growing louder, the clouds above threatening a downpour, and then, bursting forth in a flood of clarity, Claire found her voice. "You need to listen," she cried, drawing on every ounce of courage. "This man is not just a criminal. Yes, a human who is hurting and scared like you all are." Her words hung thick in the air, a tether connecting their hearts amid the storm of chaos. Each officer took a step closer, uncertainty etched on their faces, and Claire felt the weight of the moment settle over them. Then came what they had all been waiting for, a wise voice, one of authority but also one of understanding. "What she said is true. You have to allow us to help you." It was a detective stepping forth from the gathering fog, grounding everyone from the boiling point they had reached. "Together," he said firmly, "we can ensure that no more harm comes to you or anyone else. Just come with us. It's time to put an end to this madness." The assailant faltered, uncertainty flickering in his wild eyes. "They don't care about me, about us," yet the flickering flame of belief sparked to life, ignited by the compassion echoing in Claire's voice. "Let us help," Claire pleaded, stepping forward. "This is your chance. You're not alone." The air thrummed with possibility, tension bending like a bowstring pulled taut. The assailant hesitated, nerves palpable. "Can you really promise that?" he murmured, fear mixing with the hope that dared to shine through. "Yes," Claire breathed. "Promise." And just like that, the moment transformed. The assailant dropped to his knees, surrendering to a tide of emotion, the weight of suffering giving way to relief as he broke down. The tension broke and the police rushed forward, arms open to guide him. In a swirling storm of emotions, Claire stepped back, her heart swelling as she witnessed the unfolding of hope. They had made it. Somewhere amid all that chaos, she glimpsed the billionaire standing just behind her, relief washing over his expression. Together they had faced the darkness and somehow emerged into the light. Claire stepped towards him, and for a moment words were unnecessary. Both felt the connection forged through shared struggle, both willing to face whatever came next together. The sirens faded into the distance, the rain descended softly upon the city, cleansing the scars of that night. "Thank you for believing in him," the billionaire breathed, his eyes warm and sincere. "You really are one of a kind, Claire." Maybe we all can be, she replied softly, glancing back toward the alley, the shadows slowly falling away, replaced by whispers of change. And as a new dawn began to creep in, she found comfort in knowing that, in the heart of chaos, hope was their greatest ally. They were alive, ready for the next chapter ahead, whatever that may hold. Now remember, this is a journey we share. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss the incredible stories waiting around the bend. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm with your love. Flood the comments section with your thoughts on this conclusion. What are your theories about their next steps? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Your support means the world, and together, we can build this community stronger. Let's do this.